think every life or death situation I've been in, every risk I've taken, everything I've ever done, for it to all culminate in the club as it is now, I couldn't be more happy. What we have now is the ability to affect young people in Newcastle and bring them into a multiracial, more global way of thinking through the medium of nightclubs. And that's just something which was never there when I was a kid, and that's there now, and I'm proud of that. The racism I went through as a kid, you know, when I was growing up in school and stuff, that's very much shaped me. And I suppose it's the background to why I present myself the way I do. We actually stand for something that's supposed to bring people together and make life in Newcastle better for young people than it was when I was a young person. For people like me, nightlife in Newcastle in the early 80s was just complete rubbish. White-owned, tacky mainstream venues dominated, and outsiders like me, well, we had nowhere to go. So if we want our own scene, we had to create it. So that's what we did. A bar called the Trent House gave me a real shot at doing that from 1984. When I first took over the Trent, it was big news, you know, like a mixed-race person having a bar. That was like, you know, the coons have come to town. That was the sort of phrase you would hear. And just the windows went out every single night. Constant threats, constant intimidation, fighting every single day. But we fought them off, stood firm, and eventually we won out. You know, you had sort of Thatcher's Britain outside, then you had a line on the step, and then you had the Trent House inside, and it was like being in a different country. The music was the key thing, as I say. You could have, you know, Love Supreme by John Coltrane, you could have Frank Zappa, you could have the Valentinos, you could just have anything you could possibly imagine musically, and that's what we did. We just pushed it as far as it was possible to push it, and created like an iconic and just absolutely out of this world jukebox that people just flocked to come and play. And the music just seemed to suck the people in, and the music was all on the cool, soulful tip, the uplifting tip, nothing negative, only ever positive music. And that just created the sort of little vortex that the bar grew up in, you know? I look back on it as something I'm extremely proud of, the 25 years I spent there. I'm very, very glad that we got across the music we did. I'm very glad we took the stance against racism that we did. And I'm glad that I've been able to take the Trent and trade it up and end up evolving that into what is now World Headquarters. I'm immensely proud of that journey. Big Bird was a club that I ran in Edinburgh in 1989. I used to go up there on a Saturday with a team of sort of 15 kids, the majority black kids going up there. And we just went up there to play music and have a good time and kind of expand what we were doing in Newcastle up to Scotland. And it all was going absolutely fabulously until it went horrendously wrong. The local soccer casuals absolutely hated us, and they organised themselves to target our night. One night, you know, Nazi salutes began on the dance floor, saluting in unison, and then it just properly kicked off. Tons of people got injured. One guy I saw had his jaw literally swinging in the breeze from it almost being kicked clean off his face. A week later, I got sort of ambushed, as it were, as I was opening the doors, and a gang of about 100 of these guys tried to pull me outside and kick me to death or something, you know, or go, kill the nigger, kill the nigger. And the only reason I escaped was because as I tried to pull the two front doors shut by the fire bar, my friend Greg was able to smash all their knuckles with a pickaxe handle so I could get the doors shut, otherwise I would have definitely have been killed. And so, when you're up against violence like that, you have to kind of think about the people you're working with and protect them, and I knew I couldn't protect all the guys and girls that were coming up with me every week anymore, so I had to pull out of it. Even though I was making a fortune, I had to pull out of it, and I did. And it was the steepest learning curve and the best lesson of my life, because it made me realise if I want to run club nights properly, I have got to control everything myself, everything. The 80s underground party scene was, in my opinion, created by the government. They made people like me feel completely disenfranchised and not involved in society. We weren't able to go in city centres. We couldn't be part of society, really. So we had to build our own little culture if we wanted to party. It wasn't safe in the city centre because the doormen were out of control. Gangsters ran most of the doors in town. The police were overtly racist, certainly to me, on many occasions. They just didn't feel welcome, so we thought, you know, sorry, we'll build our own scene. In 1986, we threw a beach party up at Druridge Bay, up on the Northumberland coast, me and my friend Bobby. And it was probably the biggest
I suppose you could call it, we weren't breaking any laws, but the biggest illegal party that had ever been organised in these parts, and it was done totally underground. Nobody, the cops had no idea about it, council had no idea about it. We just rocked up to the beach, five-a-side goals, barbecues, circus tent, generators, pool tables, space invaders, and just took it over and just put a city on the beach for one night, bust up 700 people, none of whom knew where they were going. They just got their ticket and came, and just had an amazing time.
Overnight, we became sort of Robin Hood-style favourites of everybody in Newcastle. We were running underground Newcastle. It was that simple. Nobody else came anywhere near us. We were the boys. That set the stage for what's now Weald headquarters. That's how we evolved, and our friendly little scene's popularity just started to grow and grow and grow.
The murals are like a visual representation of the sort of stance of the club and the stance we take. There's pictures of beautiful animals, wonderful, inspirational people, and they're supposed to be awe-inspiring, and they are. And that's why th're there. you're supposed to walk in and go, wow, why would anybody even bother to do that? And the reason is because we're that into it, but we really care about every single little detail. And if there's a bare wall, and we can represent something on it that shows what we stand for, then that's what we'll do. Public Enemy, I followed them around the whole country when they toured here back in the 80s, and they were a massive influence on me as well in terms of just making me feel really determined and kind of reversing some of the racist nonsense I'd heard when I was a kid. I like the idea of young people because they're so enthusiastic and they need a chance. One of the reasons for setting up the club was because it was so difficult for me to get a foot on the ladder of work and DJing when I was a young kid. And now we've built the club, I'm able to extend the opportunities to hundreds of young people a year, young promoters and DJs, people who would never get a start anywhere else can get a start with us. And I think that youth is it's the very engine room of what we do. Young people are what moves us forward, and it's young people that I really want to get the message of Weald headquarters, that harmonic message across to.
No limit, passing skies above, spread love, just live it.
All the struggles I've had, I think, in the past with racism, the authorities, everything, it's totally validated by what the club is now. The club is now a beacon of tolerance, smack in the middle of central Newcastle that everybody knows about, everybody who comes through respects. Culturally, we add a massive amount to a side of the city that would otherwise be virtually ignored. So I've been a DJ my whole life virtually, I'm turned on by records, by the way they smell, by the way they look, by having loads of them, I've got so many experiences tied up with so many records that to be in a position whereby every weekend I get to play for couple of 6-hour sets on a weekend, it's just great. I love it. The fact that I'm able to share my obsessive knowledge of music and my obsessive collection with people who will just come out for a Saturday night. But you can kind of put in so much high quality music and make it really good, and I've got such a passion for it. And I think that comes across, the performance of playing records, which to me isn't really a performance, it's just me getting up, having a few beers and spinning some tunes, but I get so into it, it sort of becomes more than the sum of its parts, and you add to that the people who come and bang, it's on. My legacy isn't my own, it's shared by everybody I've ever worked with. And the legacy we leave is in a city as white as Newcastle still is today and was in the 80s when we started out. The legacy we leave is that we have actually changed that to a degree. We've made it so that there is a real opportunity for young people to socialize somewhere that isn't going to try and sell them something, that's going to actually let them develop as people and expose them to new music. So our legacy is that we have increased the diversity of Newcastle, that we are independent, and that we have inspired other people to believe in themselves. I'd like to think that was our legacy.